This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hey, Barker, good morning. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible, right?
Yes,
Cool. Yeah, so myself, Shankar, and Norton, can you mute yourself? Yeah, cool. Yeah, myself, Shankar, and I'm working as a lead DevOps engineer. So I worked with number of projects to automate the process of the CI/CD and the infrastructure level, right? So that the applications can be deployed smoothly, fast, quickly, and safely. So, as a DevOps engineer, right, our main job is how quick you are developing and you're deploying, and the safest, right, how safe you are going to provide the applications are. Right. So, I used to give the trainings and like internal and external trainings as well. So, this is about me. So, it will not take much time. Right. So, today we'll try to understand the DevOps, and in the DevOps, right, what kind of work, right, we are going to do, and for that, the tool stack, right. If you want to do something, if I want to develop, right, a application, I'm going to use a language. Right, likewise, in our DevOps area, right, what kind of tool stack we are going to use to automate certain areas. The areas, right, we'll discuss one by one. So, why to automate? What the DevOps, right? We'll try to understand first. So, in our software, right, in our software area, anything you are going to work for an application. You are a developer, you are going to develop an application. You are a tester, you are going to test the application, right? You are a networking team guy, right? You need to make sure the latencies are not there whenever, right, customers are hitting your application. Like, you are going to support the networking of application, right? So you are a build and release engineer, right? Your job is to build the code and deploy the code into the server so that people or the customer can access your application. All right. So now that in our software area, right, the team whatever the team is working, they are going to work for an application. Right. So now if I want to work, right, if I want to work for an application, right, like teams are there and the application is going to have separate sections. Like if you guys observe here, it is going to have the platform, it is going to have the infrastructure, right, the minimum things. So which means if I develop an application straightforward, I cannot take it and use it, right? So there are challenges are there. It's not only just developing an application. To run the application we have to take care of a lot of things, right? So for that, different teams are going to involve in the back end, right? So they are going to support the application to run smoothly, in the sense highly available, highly scalable, right? So right, anytime if you guys go and hit the Flipkart sites or Amazon sites, always it will be available. Even though, right, they are going to introduce some offers, right, big billion day offers like that. Even though that is a peak time, like huge amount of requests are going to hit the application because they are going to give the offers. Even though that time also, the application is highly available, and whatever the response, right? Usually now, right now there is no offers are running. So if I hit the application, whatever the response I'm getting, like maybe fraction of seconds, that time also will get the same. Right? So that's what highly available and the scalable things. Right? So now the application should run smoothly, highly available, scalable. In the past, there are different teams are going to work. Like right, the build and release, like QA team, networking team, security team, like that. Different teams are involved in the backend. So now, due to that reason, right, things are fine. But whenever different teams are working, obviously, right, misunderstandings, miscommunication, right, communication gap, right. So lack of knowledges. So due to this, time delay, right. So the time is getting delayed. So I want to set up some security for the application. Now I need the inputs, the requirement, like what I need to set up. So now I received something else. I developed something else, right? So now why you developed something like we are not expecting this one, right? So then again, that guy informed me like this, so that's why I have developed like this, right? So gaps creates the time gaps, right? The communication gap creating the time gap, right? So now what the approach thought of here is, right, okay, let's not to go and work as a team like individual teams. Let's group it, right? So earlier, right, build and release engineers, testers, developers, like that, different teams. No, not like that, right? We are going to have one team, so that the developers is not informed like that, the testers are not informed like that. So there is no something they are not informed me. It is one team. Let's form one team so that the team has to take care of everything, right? So now that is what our DevOps team is, right? So now the DevOps team is going to play multiple roles here. For what? To maintain the application highly available and scalable, right? So right, so now here it is not like every project, every application, right, every teams are going to manage one DevOps team to take care of all the roles. It depends on the application. If the application is huge, like our e-commerce applications, you will see, right, in the DevOps team again different teams, in the DevOps again different teams. If the application is small, then one DevOps team is going to take care of everything, right? So that's where the DevOps came in the picture. Now usually, right, you heard about dev plus ops, right, development plus operations, like that. That is initial definition when the DevOps introduced. Now it's not like that. DevOps is something you are going to automate the areas. In simple word, you are going to automate the areas, right? What are the areas, right? We'll discuss. We'll discuss one by one, right? So that's where, right, so the DevOps is playing very important role in our projects. They are the, right, in the back end, they are the key persons. If any issues, the finger points to the DevOps now, because they are going to manage everything, right? So that's where DevOps is having a very high demand in the market, right? The salaries, right? You should have the technical knowledge. The salary is not a bar for them. They are going to ready to hire you for any package, but you should have the strong technical knowledge. That's what, right? Even though, right, I know that you guys seeing the recession is going on, right? Even though in the recession also DevOps has the demand, right? Now let's go to, right, the next year, like what the roles we are going to play as a DevOps engineer, right? So right, so basically the important area for any DevOps guy is make sure the application is running on the servers. The application is running on the servers. So what are the servers here? The servers are nothing but environments, right? So you in our, right, in our applications, the software side, if any application you are trying to develop, the application straightforward will not go to the live. So what we will do, basically, right, we are going to test the application first, right? So then only once the testing is confirmed, then only you will go for the live, right? Like once the application development is ready, assume application development is ready, then what we will do here, first we are going to test by the developers, like the environments. You can see, right, environment and group of servers. So they will test on the development environment. Who? The developers. So they will they will take a call. Okay, application is working as expected. So then it will be sent to the team called QA team, like our testing team. Right? Like here you can see, right, the staging environment as an example. Right? This is the other environment where the testing team is going to validate the code. Right. So now they will validate different scenarios on the code, and if they're satisfied, like the scenarios all satisfied, they will give the sign off on the environment. They will give the sign off. Now the code will be tested by the client side, like whoever is right offer this product to us. So from the client side, a team will be there. The client team validates the code again on UAT environment. We are going to call it as user acceptance testing environment. Again, a bunch of servers. On the server, the code will be validated. Now the client also satisfied, then production, it will go to the prod. So likewise, whenever the code is ready, right? So your code is going to validated on different environment to make sure the code is working as expected, right? So as a DevOps engineer, right, our first priority is the code is running on the servers, means on the environments. It should be always the latest, highly available. That is what our first priority of the job, right? So now how we are going to make sure this code is running in all the servers? For that, will we will create a process, like the automation process. We are not going to do it manual. Whenever the DevOps team is there, the management always thinks about that. They will automate the activities, right? Manual process is going to be eliminated. So, right, suppose in the project there is a manual process happening. Once the DevOps team introduced, they have to eliminate the manual process, right? Max 99.9%, if possible, make it automate, right? So now to make sure, right, the application is highly available, we are going to, right, create a process. That process is called as CI and CD process, continuous integration and the continuous deployment process, right? So, right, if you go to any project, you will see the CI and CD process, right? So now earlier, right, we are going to have a team called build and release engineers. Their job is to, so right, create the CA process, the CD process, like that. Now you will not see a team called build and release engineers. No more. You will see that kind of teams. We are the persons will take care. Right. So now this DevOps eliminating the teams also, right? Like that earlier, right? One team, in the team 10 members, the other team has 10 members, like that, right? 20 to 30 people will be there. Now the DevOps hardly, right, you will see 4 to 5 members, like I mentioned, right? If it is a small project, you will see 4 to 5. It's a like somewhat big application, you are going to see the team size like 10 to 15 members also. It depends on the project. So right, so now when multiple teams are handling these activities, right, like here the teams, right, involved design, development, testing team, deployment team, operation team, support team, like different teams in the past, right? So now you are eliminating the teams also because of your automated activities. So now when a group of people are working in the past, now hardly 3 to 4 people can maintain or develop these activities? Is it possible? Right, earlier 10 to 15 members are there to maintain, to handle this process. Now 4 to 5 members can handle? Obviously, no. Right. So 4 people or 5 people cannot handle it. but we are handling it with the help of the tools, right? So earlier, right, we don't have these many tools. Hardly they are going to have the max is the shell scripting to automate the areas, right? The shell scripting widely used. Now we have a lot of tools available in the market. So now the DevOps team is going to use those available tools and will create the process. All will create the automations, right? So now, what is the CI and the CD process, right? Like I mentioned, right? The first priority is make sure the application is always highly available on the servers. For that, we are going to create the CI and CD process, right? So what is the CI and CD process, right? So CI means continuous integration and the CD means continuous deployment, right? So I hope you guys are following me. So any questions, anything, right? Do let me know, guys. Right. So now let's talk about the continuous integration. Right. In the continuous integration, what we are going to do? So as a as a first step, application will be developed, right? So who is going to develop the application? The developers, right? So now in a single shot, like in 10 days, 15 days, the entire application is going to be developed, right? No, it is not possible also. In 10 days, 5 days, right? The team is not going to develop the entire application, right? So if I take an example, right, like our Paytm application, paytm.com, here, right, you can see there are different services are available, right? Recharge, pay electricity bill, right? DTH recharge, like that. So when I want to, right, book the gas cylinder, then I will click the book. So that, right, it will go for the booking of LPG. Now in the back end, right, each service they are going to develop some code piece for each service, right? So now, is it possible to develop this entire application 1 week or 10 days? No, right? So what they will do, they will take service by service as an example, right? So here, so first we'll pick the recharge service and we are going to work on the recharge service, right? So now, if you guys are working, right, you might know about the sprint planning, agile process, and all the stuff, right? If you are not working, so right, so we the teams are going to work on the agile process. The agile is nothing but, right, we are going to have the sprints. The sprint is nothing but, right, 2 weeks. So now you will take the work sprint by sprint, like it is a kind of iteration loops. Like suppose if I take the March month, right? So March, if I divide into two parts, 15 days, 15 days, then sprint 1 and the sprint 2, like that. Then April again, sprint 3, sprint 4, like that, right? 15 days to 15 days. So now in the 15 days, what the team will do, they will take some requirements. Suppose, right, I will start working with the recharge or prepaid mobiles. Right. So now we'll start working on the prepaid mobile recharge service, developing it. Right. So now the recharge prepaid mobile is a service. Now the service, to develop service, they are going to, right, create the parts. Right. The part is like suppose designing, thus how to design the service. The second part, right, the components, what are the components you are going to use, like databases, application languages, like that. And the third part, right, you will start developing the code. Now in the code, right, you are going to take the scenarios, like what scenarios we are going to place it, like that. Step by step you will go. So now first sprint, like suppose we have started, the team started the developing of the application, they have taken a piece of code of the research service. Now what they will do, they will develop the code. In the first 15 days, they will develop the code. Now, after the code is developed, the piece, suppose, right, in the Paytm recharge, uh, user login or user authentication. Then suppose that when I entered the amount, my details has to be go and verify in the bank, and if I have the sufficient balance in my bank, then recharge will be successful. If there is no sufficient balance of my banking details are incorrect, it is not going to allow. Right. So like that authentication process. Right. So now the team working on the authentication process in the sprint. So they will, right, develop the code. Then the code is to be validated, right? So for that, right, once the development is ready, then the CI process starts, the continuous integration process starts, right? So now, like, how what is the process here, right? So here the developers, right, develop the code. Now what they will do, they will push this code into the version control system, right? So like version control systems are nothing but, right, our Git, Bitbucket, Perforce, SVN, like these are all the version control tools available in the market. What is the job of version control tool? Version, the word itself is saying like version, right? So now when I develop the code and pushed it in the backend, suppose, right, so here authentication logic, auth.java. So in the backend, the version control tool creates a version for this, right? So right, so now here again on the authentication, right, so like 30% of the code I pushed it. Now again I developed some more like 60%. Again the same file I pushed it with, now that this is 30% of the code of authentication. So now developed 70% and pushed it. Now in the backend, version control tool take it as a version 2. Right. So like we read, so whenever the team ready with the code, and what they will do, they will push the code to the version control tool. So that what is the advantage? The version control tool capture every change as a version. Even you modified one single letter in the code, you modified one single letter and pushed it in the backend. In the backend, it will create a version like this, right? So now what is the advantage to place the code in the version control tool, right? What is the advantage? Why should I place the code in the version control tool, right? Why can't in my system? Why can't I store in my laptop or the desktop where the code is developing, right? So we are going to work as a team, not a single person, right? You are not the only one who is going to develop the application, or you are not the only one who is going to manage the applications, right? A team will be there, right? The same in the developers also, a team will be there, like 5 members team, 10 members team, like or 20 members team, a team, right? Now some point of time, right, the like Shankar is going to work on the authentication logic, right? After some point of time, right, like Bhargav is going to work on the logic, right? So like that, different people, right, in the team, some point of time someone, and some other time someone. So now when people are going to work on the same code, if I'm going to place the code in my local, it's a dependency, right? So now Shankar developed the code and he is used, right, he stored the code in his laptop. Now Bhargav wants to work with the code, then he has to come to me and ask me, hey Shankar, provide the code to me, right? It's a dependency, right? So in our, right, IT, no dependencies never ever encouraged, right? There should not be any kind of dependency. So that's why, right? So what I need to do, I have to place this code in the some central location so that anyone can pick the code. Whenever they want to work with the code or use the code, they can pick the code. A, a central location is required, right? So now here for the central location, I can use some hard disk, right? External hard disk, right? I think you know about the external hard disk, right? You don't need to be always to map with your laptop or desktop. I can take this external hard disk and I can connect to any other laptop and I can use it. The same way, if I can use a server, a external server, so that, right, people has the access to the server, so that everyone is going to place the code on the server, then anyone can pick the code, right? So now that is also fine, that is also possible, we can do that. But the thing, right, challenges, right? So an example, suppose, right, so here we developed a code as an example, right? So here we developed a code like a login page, right? So now in the login page, right, we have user ID. Usually, right, the properties will be user ID, then password, then you will be having the submit button, right? Likewise, the login page will be, right? So now we the team developed this login page and deployed it, and it is working fine. Assume the Flipkart site. Now the client asked us to update this login page, modify the login page, right? I want to have the cancel button also. Along with the submit, I want to have the cancel also. Then what we'll do, right? We'll take this page and we'll modify the page and we'll add the cancel button here. That's it. Right, update the page and added the cancel button. Now we deployed it, right? So once the code is ready, right, you will test the code on the environments and finally will deploy into the production. Now when you deploy into the production, then by that time the code fails. That this is common scenarios. Usually you are going to face. In one environment, the code will work fine. In other environments, the code is going to be failed. Right. So now likewise, right, in all the environments, it is working fine, but when it comes to the production, it failed. Now what is the immediate job? Now assume it's a Flipkart application. Right? Assume 5 minutes, if people are not able to log into the application of Flipkart, how much business they are going to lose? Just 5 minutes. Right? It's a very huge impact. Right? Just 5 minutes is very huge impact on the business side. So now what you will do there? So usually what we'll thought of, we'll revert the code. What are the code we placed, right? Because the same file you modified it. Whatever the previous is working, right? The same you modified, you add the cancel. Then what is the option you have? Revert the changes. Whatever the changes we placed it, revert them like this. If it is a one change or two change, two in the sense two lines code change, three lines code change, easily we can revert. Suppose if it is right 100 lines of changes in multiple files, then how much time you need, right? So now we are going to have two options. One is go and check the server like application logs, right, and see whether the application what type of issue it is having, right, and fix it up. The second option is right, revert the code. Whatever the code is there, revert the code, take out the code, right? Go and fix the issue, check the logs and fix the issue. We are not guaranteed that how much time it will take, maybe 5 minutes or 1 hour or one day, right? So then the better option is revert the changes. When revert the changes also, right, if we don't know, right, how much time it will take, because if it's a one line change, hardly within seconds we can revert it, but if the changes are huge, again it is a problem for us, right? So that's where instead of having the code onto the servers or central locations, we are going to use the version control tools, right? So what is the advantage of the version control tool, right? So now whenever, right, a change is needed, like cancel button is required, so now usually you will take the same file, from the right version control tool, and we will update it, right? So we'll update with the cancel and save it. We'll take the same file, we'll update and we'll cancel. But when you push it into the version control tool, right, it will not overwrite the existing one. The previous one will be taken as a version 1 and the latest will be taken as a version 2. That is the version control tool job. It will take care. It will take care of managing the versions. You will take the same file, you will modify the same file, but when you saved it in the back end, it will create a copy like this. Now, right, something wrong. Now it is not working. These changes are not working. You have the previous version. Simply take it and deploy it. Right. So one of the important tool for us, version control tools. Right. So now once the code is pushed like into the version control tool, then what we will write? We'll take the code. Now our CI process starts. We will take the code and what we'll do, we will build the code. So what is building of the code, right? So the building of the code is nothing but whatever, right? Suppose here auth.java file we received, it will be converted as authentication.war file, right? Nothing but, right, creation of artifacts. We are going to call it as a creation of artifact. Usually, right, whenever you want to install any packages, you will download the softwares from the internet. Like you will see .exe files, right? You will double click on the .exe files and it will go for installation, right? So they are nothing but artifacts, converted code, right? So now once the code we received, will create the artifacts. That's what build process. Now, right, before the creation of artifact, right, what we will do, we'll do some validations. Before the building, we are going to do some validations. Like the one is, right, run the test cases. So now, right, so now the first step will be take the code, and the second step, right, will be run the test cases. Which test cases? Unit test cases, right? So now these unit test cases are going to provide by whom? The developers, right? So the developers are going to make sure their code is properly developed. So how they are going to make sure? They will provide the unit test cases to us. They will create the some unit test cases and they will provide to us. Now what we will do? We will run the test cases in the process. Once the code we have taken, and on the code we are going to run the test cases whatever they provided. Now these test cases should be passed. Suppose there are 5 cases are there, the 5 cases should be passed. Or if there are 10 cases are there, the test cases, the 10 test cases should be passed. Likewise, all the test cases should be passed. Right. So, right, if all the test cases are passed, then what we will do, we'll check the code quality. Right. So this is quality checking, the code quality checking. Right. So in this code quality checking, we are going to check any bugs are there, any issues with the code. Right. Let's suppose as an example, I have developed a code. Now the code supports to send a request only one person at a time. Not multiple persons can send the request. My code is not handling it. No, we cannot allow it, right? Because nowadays, right, no single person send an application, the other persons are in the queue, not like that, right? Multiple people can access your application, right? So now, like right, the quality of the code we are going to test it. So like, so any bugs are there, any security issues, right? Any passwords, right? Any sensitive data you hard to code in the code. Right? That is again security breach. We should not expose the passwords, sensitive data. So like that, the quality of the code is going to check here, the code quality. So then, if the code quality also good, then we'll create the artifact. Build. We'll create the artifact. Right. So the artifact is nothing but, right. So here it is Java code. We are going to create the artifact jar files, var files, er files. They are called as a artifacts, means you will take the .java code and the .java code will be converted into jar var ar. Like if it is a .NET code, application is developed with .NET, we'll take the code, .NET code, and we'll convert into .dlls, .exe files. Right? That is called conversion. Nothing but we are going to call them as, in our technical word, artifacts. Now these artifacts are created, then we are going to store the artifacts. Right? So why to store the artifacts? Right, like here what you will store? Here we got the auth.java, right? So here the artifact will be auth.var file, like this. Var, the first one, right? Suppose v1. So here we are going to give it as dot version 1. The second one, auth dot var dot version 2, like that. We are going to store it. Artifacts. So artifacts are what? The converted code. So on the servers, right? What we discuss like environments, development environment, QA environment, right? The staging and the production environments, right? So there we are going to run the code, nothing but the artifacts we are going to deploy. The war files or jar files we are going to deploy on the servers, not your .java code or .NET code or .python code. The converted code we are going to deploy. So what is the advantage of storing these artifacts? Like the same scenario, right? So we have added the submit button and the submit button is failed. Now what I want, right? Immediately the previous version, already previous version is available, like version 1 is available without the submit button. Take the code and deploy it. Now, right, can I take the code straight forward and deploy it? No, right? Because the servers required the artifacts like war files or the jar files, not your Java version 1. Now, what you need, you have to convert it. The code, the previous version code, you have to take it and convert it. Now, this is the process to convert the code. You have to run all the stages. Now, how much time you need to complete all the stages? 30 minutes, very huge. 15 minutes, also huge. But without the conversion, I cannot deploy it. So that's why, right? If you store the artifacts, every version artifact you stored here, you don't need to build the code again, right? So version 2 failed. Take the version 1 artifact and deploy it. How much time? Seconds. Just take it and deploy it, right? So that's why, right? We'll store the artifacts for the future purpose. Now this process, right, is called as continuous integration process, right? So right, so now here the code is developed, right? Suppose this is 70% of the code. Now right, now 100% is developed. Then again, what they will do? They will push it the 100%. Now again, the process triggers, right? So whenever the team pushes the code, automatically this process will trigger. What the process? Take the code, run the test cases, code quality, build the code, and store the artifacts. Right. So it's a continuous process. That's where we are going to call it as a continuous integration process. Right. So now, how we are going to set up this process as a DevOps engineer, right? How we are going to set up the process? Now, for that, right, we are going to use tools, right? Like I mentioned, right? The tools, the available tools in the market, those tools we are going to use. So, like here, so in this first, right, to take the code, the Git we are going to use. And to run the test case, right, we are going to use a tool called Maven. It's called as a build tool. The Maven will take care of two things. One is it will take care of running the test cases. It will take care of, right, create the artifacts, the build tool. And to check the code quality, right, we are going to use Sonar Cube. And right again, to build the code, right, create the artifacts, like I mentioned, right, Maven will take care of both. Then to store the artifacts, right, Nexus we are going to use. Right. These are all the tool stack for the CA process, right? So now who will run all the stages, right? Here I created stages, like take the code, run the code like stage by stage. Who will run all the stages? That is nothing but the Jenkins, right? So now in the Jenkins, we are going to create the jobs, right? The job is nothing but set of stages like this. These are the stages. Now, with the help of Jenkins, we will create the jobs. In the jobs, we are going to have the stages. In each stage, we are going to use one tool to complete that activity, right? So now once the code is ready, then we'll go for the CD part, continuous deployment part, right? Why the deployment part? Right, the code need to be validated. The code need to be validated. Now who will validate the code? Different teams. Different teams are going to validate the code, like development team. They will use a environment called development environment, right? So in this environment, right, you are going to have the servers, group of servers like this. Environments are going to have group of servers, right? So now here the development team validate the code to make sure their code is properly working, right? So now how the code you will receive here, right? Because the code is available here as an artifact, right? So simply what you will do, you will take this code from here, from the Nexus, and you will deploy into here. Take it and deploy it. If I take straightforward the code and deploy, will it work? No, it will not work, right? So like I have a document with me, right? Like MS Office, a Word document with me. If I want to open the Word document, right? So what I need a mission. On the mission, I need OS, the operating system, like Windows. Then I need MS Office. Then only, right, I can open the Word document. In the same way, right, whenever, right, you want to run the application on the server, you need the application setup, right? The requirements, like the proper OS, the dependencies to run the application, right? Whatever the dependencies are required, whatever the softwares are required, the tools are required, like any user is required, any configuration changes are required, right? We have to make sure all are placed on the server. Then, if everything is available, then you can run your application. Otherwise, it will not work, right? So like an example, right, if it is a Java code, I need to make sure Java is installed on the machine. Java is installed on the machine, right? So now to run this war file, right, we need a web server like Tomcat is installed on the server, right? So like that, so now whatever the servers you are going to use, we make sure all the required softwares, right, dependencies are installed on the machine. Now who will take care of this, right? Again, the DevOps. So how we are going to take care of this? With the help of, right, a tool called Ansible. Right? So we are going to call it as a configuration management tools. Ansible, Chef, and Puppet. These are all the configuration management tools. What is the advantage with the tools? You will create a automation code. Like the automation means, as an example here, install the Java and the Tomcat, right? So install the Java and Tomcat, you will create the code, and the code you will deploy, you will run on the servers. Now it can be one server or hundreds of servers, right? Just you need to run the code, like the code whatever you developed, it will take care of it. Who? Your config tools like Ansible. And the advantage of the Ansible or Chef or Puppet, right? They will run parallel. There are 100 servers are there, and 100 servers at a time it will run the code. Within minutes, your setup will be ready. That is the beauty of this config tool, right? So now what you will do, you will create the automations on the Ansible or the Chef or Puppet. They will take care of running the code on the servers. So once the setup is ready, then you will deploy the code, the war file. Then the team validates the code here. Once the validation is completed, right, so then the code will go to, right, the other environment called QA environment. Right. The same thing, right? So in the environment also, we need servers and the servers required with the setup, right? So now who will validate the code here? The testing team, the QA team, right? Now again, right, who will take care of the installations and everything? Again, the Ansible, right? So then the code will go to the QA, then the QA team validate the code, and once we got the sign off from the QA team, right? Like the QA team say, okay, right, code is working fine, then you will go to the other team, the UAT environment, right? So this is from the client side, client team. They will validate the code. Then finally, right, it will go to the prod. the live, whatever, right, we are accessing here in our real. Right. So likewise, right, so we'll deploy the code environment by environment. That is called continuous deployment. Deploy into the one environment, validate the code, and then deploy into the next environment, validate the code, then deploy into the next environment, validate the code, then finally deploy into the live. This is called continuous deployment. Right. So now who is the guy will take care of infrastructure readiness? Ansible. And who is the guy will take care of the deployment? Ansible also. The same Ansible can be used to make sure the servers are ready with the required softwares, and the same Ansible can be used to deploy the code also. Right. So now this is our main task as a DevOps engineer, the CI and CD process, continuous integration and the continuous deployment. Right. So by using the tool stack, right, this is the tool stack we are going to use: Jenkins, Git, Maven, Sonar, Nexus, Ansible. The tool stack is right. So now it is a kind of process which we discussed is monolithic applications. Right. So now monolithic means, right, you will create a one war file like this, one single war file for the entire application, and you will deploy it. What is the drawback with the monolithic application? Right, you are going to pack everything. Right. Suppose, right, if I take the Paytm application, let's say here recharge, pay, electricity bill, recharge, details like that, right? So you are going to pack it. Like recharge, then electricity bill, then DTH, right? Likewise, you are going to pack everything in a single file, right? This is my Paytm application file, paytm.war file. Right? With this is right called monolithic applications. With this, right, what the challenge? Suppose there is an issue with the DTH service. Now it is down. Now, right, since it is an issue with the DTH, the entire application will go down. Right, because right, you have packed it, the entire application, you pack it, all the services you pack it. If one is not working, the entire application will go down. Right. So now this is the challenge nowadays, right? So because right, the application should be highly available, right? Due to one service, your application should not be go down. Right. So that's where, right, microservices came into the picture. Right. So microservices are nothing but, right, now you are not going to have the entire application as a single pack, right? You are going to make it pieces. So like here, so your recharge is a separate piece, your electricity is a separate piece, and your DTH is a separate piece, like this. Recharge, electricity bill, DTH, like that. Now when you make it separate them, right, so right, again same, DTH is gone, fine, that is gone, still my others are active. People can use my other services because, right, you are not packed them, right, you make it individual. Now this is called microservices. Right. So right, you can observe here. So when I try to access the Paytm, right, usually paytm.com, it will take me to the Paytm homepage. Suppose, right, I want to work with recharge, right? So then what I did, I clicked on the recharge, then it went to the recharge page. Now straightforward, what I can do, right? So here I'm closing it. Then here straightforward, see, paytm.com/recharge. The service name I'm giving here. So which means now I will not go to the Paytm homepage. Straightforward, I will go to the recharge service. So how it is possible? Because in the backend, right, they are running as individual. So now straightforward, right, I send the request to the recharge. Straightforward. So that's why, right, I'm able to access it because they are running as individual microservices. Right. So now nowadays, right, whatever the application we are going to see, they are all microservice applications, nothing but they are running as an individual. The application services are going to run as an individual in the back end. Right. So what the advantage? right? So this kind of issues, right? Your application will not be go down if one of the services is not working. Only the service will be go down, right? The other advantage, right? So here earlier, right? Whatever the application you are trying to develop, suppose I'm using a Java, the entire application, right? You should develop with the Java, because right? You are going to pack everything. Now here you are making it pieces, individual. So now you will get an option like you can develop this particular service with the Java, and you can develop this particular service with .NET, and you can develop this particular service with Python. Correct? You are not going to pack them all. You are going to run them individual. So now you have the liberty to develop by your own languages whatever is providing more features, the flexibility, scalability, security, right? We can use them for the services, right? With the microservices, right? So now, okay, fine. From the development side, yes, we got advantage. Now in the back end, right, we are the persons who needs to take care of running the application smooth, right? High available, scalable. Now, if the application is right, make it pieces like individual. Now, how we are going to manage the individual pieces like recharge is a separate piece, electricity is a separate piece, right? How we are going to manage it, right? So that's where right Docker came in the picture to manage the microservice, right? Docker came in the picture. So now what we will do, right? With the help of Docker, we are going to create a separate containers for each service. Now it is a Docker container. It is a Docker container, and it is a Docker container. Now what is a container, right? You can assume it is also a mission. It is also a mission. On the mission, you can install the softwares, you can run your applications like how we are using our laptops, desktop, servers, virtual machines. In the same way, right? Docker also, the containers also. Now the contents also, right? They are also missions. You can install the softwares, you can create the users, right? Whatever you want, you can work like a mission, and you can run your applications also. But they are lightweighted. Containers are very, very lightweighted. What is the lightweighted? Everything we'll discuss on our classes, right? So now what we'll do now, whenever right you are working for the microservice applications, now to run the microservice applications, we are going to create the Docker containers like this. Now, so now right they are running as individual, but overall it is a Paytm application, right? And these guys are Paytm application services, right? At the end, they belongs to the Paytm application services. So now you have to run as a single application, but in the back end, they are going to run as individual services, right? Now see, you have to run as a PTM application, but in the back end, in the application, they are going to run as individual services like this. Now, how we are going to manage all these micro containers as one application? For that, Kubernetes came into the picture. Right. So what this guy will do, right? It will create a cluster like this with a group of servers like this, and inside the group of servers, right? Whatever the containers are there, they are going to be deployed like this, right? So like here, my recharge service. This is my electricity bill, and this is my DTH. Like that, right? The containers are going to run, right? So what is the advantage of Kubernetes? It will run as a single application for us, like a Paytm application. But in the backend, right, inside, they are going to run, each service is going to run their individual servers, like containers. Now the Kubernetes make sure, right, the application is highly available and highly scalable. Is that right? Advantage not only running as a single application, it will make sure highly the application is available and highly scalable. Means whenever the load increases on the application, automatically, right, the servers will be increased. Inside the container side will be increased like this automatically. When the load is gone, automatically they will be deleted. We'll see everything. We are going to cover everything in the technical part, in the technical. Right. So like we right, the Kubernetes, whenever right, the microservices came in the picture. To handle the microservice, right, we'll use the Docker containers To manage these Docker containers, Kubernetes clusters are used. Right. So now in the CI part, in the continuous integration part for the microservices, right? So here war files are created. Now no more war files here. You will see the Docker images. Now in the build code, you will see the Docker images. No dot war files or nothing, right? So here auth Docker image likewise. Now who will create the Docker image for us? The Docker will be used, right? We'll use Docker here. Right. Now, what is the image is going to hold? The image is nothing but whatever the container you are going to create. A container means it's a server. Now, whatever the container you are going to create, for the container, what is required, right? So, like here, I want to create a container with what? With Linux OS, then Java and Tomcat and run the code. Likewise, right? I need the setup. Right. Now in the Docker, right? In the Docker image, you are going to tell everything. Like I need this setup in the Docker image. Right. So the Docker image will take care of, right? Creating a mission with the Linux OS, Java, Tomcat, and what are the code, right? The developers develop, it is going to run. Right. So like that, the Docker image is going to pack everything to run the application. Now with the Docker image, right, you will create the containers like this, the server. Right. So now in the CI process, right, what you will do, you will create the Docker images. Then the Docker images, right, we are going to store in our right Artifactory tool, not like Nexus. It is like a Docker hub. Docker hub. The images, right, are going to be stored in the Docker hub. Now from the Docker hub, right, what you will do? You will deploy the image. You will be there. The image will be available. The image will be deployed into the Kubernetes cluster. Right. So like this is our dev cluster, dev environment. Likewise, right, we are going to have different clusters. We are going to call this a cluster, Kubernetes clusters. Right. Now dev cluster, then we are going to have the QA cluster, right? We are going to have the UAT cluster, like prod cluster like this. Right. So now one by one, validate the code, then deploy into the next cluster, QA, validate the code, then deploy into the next cluster, UAT, validate the code, then finally prod cluster. Right. So now the CA process remain the same, like take the code, run the test cases, code quality, then build the image, store the image in the CA process for the micro. Then to deploy the code, right, we'll use the images to be containers, and to manage the containers, we are going to use the Kubernetes clusters. Now the environments are nothing but your clusters, right? So now here, along with this Jenkins, Git, Maven, Sonar, you will see the other two tools for the microservices, Docker and Kubernetes, right? So like monolithic application, microservice application, right? As part of right our course, we are going to cover these two as a separate projects, right? We'll see one project for the monolithic application, complete process, whatever we discussed, right? The CA and CD. Then we'll go and see the microservices, right? Like this, right? With this tool stack, the complete CA/CD as a second project, right? So two complete projects we are going to cover the CA/CD for the mono and to cover the CA/CD for the micro, right? So now this is the one of the important area for the DevOps guys. And we have right the other important area called infrastructure management, right? So we have to make sure infrastructure is available. What is infra here, right? To run the application highly available, scalable, you need the servers, right? You need the servers, and you need load balancers to manage highly available. You need auto scaling for the scalable. You need security, right? You need storage to store the content. You need the storage. You need access controls, right? Who can access the application, who cannot, access controls, right? So like right, the infra side to run the application, we need several components. We need several components. So now, so how we are going to handle the infrastructure components? So that's where, right, cloud came into the picture, right? So the cloud we are going to use nowadays, right? Every project, the cloud is one of the important piece to manage the application, right? Infrastructure of the application, for particularly to the DevOps folks, right? So now for the DevOps folks to manage the infrastructure, right? So now here we are going to use the clouds. Now the clouds are, right, different clouds are available in the market like AWS, Azure, Google, right? Bluemix, IBM Bluemix, like that. So out of the, right, I, AWS holding, right, 70% of the share in the market by AWS, right? So that's why, right, we are going to cover the AWS. So right, we'll see the AWS services to manage, to handle these components, right? So now here one thing, right, if you learn one cloud like AWS, Azure or Google, the other cloud remain the same, right? So all the clouds is going to offer the same services, right? The services are nothing but, right, infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service. These are the common services. Now for the DevOps side, we are going to use infra. We need infrastructure as a service, right? Because they're all our infra components, right? So like the developers or the other engineers, they need the platform. They will use platform as service services. Like, right, whatever the team, right, they wants to use, right, the cloud, they are going to offer the different services for them. I want to do some data analytics, right? For the data analytics, there are separate services available, right? So likewise, so now, right, for the DevOps folks, we are going to use IaaS, infrastructure service. Now, right, you learn the IaaS, like you explore the IaaS services in AWS. The same you are going to see in the Azure also. As an example, right, so I am going to work with the servers. I am going to work with the servers missions. Now in our AWS, right, we are going to call them as instances. The servers called as instances. In our Azure, we are going to call it as a virtual machines, VMs. In our Google, right, we are going to call them the same machines. At the end, all are servers only. And right, to create the machine, there will be a process. In our AWS, right, we are going to have process like region, the type, the key, like that. The same we are going to see in the Azure also. The same we are going to see in the Google Cloud also. Like region, type, key, the same. So that's why, right, if you learn one cloud, working with the other clouds will be easy. No big difference you are going to see. Hardly, right? The technical terms, right? That here servers, instances, VMs, like that, right? You will see, but in the back end architecture, everything remain the same, right? So now, as part of our course, right, we are going to cover the AWS for what? To manage the infra. Like what is the infra here? Servers, load balancers, auto scaling, security, like all the stuff. There are plenty of components we are going to cover here, right? So what are the components, right? So let's see now the services, I mean to say, right? So EC2, load balancers, auto scaling, CloudWatch, right? Monitoring of services, access, IAM, databases, RDS, storage, S3, automation of the cloud formation, Lambda, serverless, right? Without the servers, you want to run the code. That Route 53, like managing the applications. Usually, right? So whenever I hit the paytm.com, I'm getting the application, which means in the back end, it will go to one server where the Paytm is running, right? So how these domains we are going to map, the paytm.com, we are going to map with the servers, right? That's what here, Route 53, right? Like EFS, like file storage again, VPC, security of the applications, right? So, right, so now we are going to cover these AWS services from the infrastructure point of view, right? This is our second priority job for us. Apart from the CAC, right, we have to make sure infrastructure is always highly available and scalable, right? So now with these services, we are going to automate the process, right? Now this is our third project. Total 3 projects we are going to see. This is the third project. By using these services, we are going to automate the creation of infrastructure. the environments. Infra means environments by using these services. Right. So how we are going to, we'll see as a third project. Right. So right. So now the CI and the CD. Right. So now here we are going to see the CI and CD, then infra, and finally, right, monitoring. One of the other important area for us is monitoring. Monitoring of what? Right? Your infrastructure. You create a server, the server went down. Right? So now someone has to observe it. Otherwise, the server will not be there. Whatever the services are running, they are down. Right? So like that. So now here the server's monitoring. Suppose your service is running, but in the server, application is not responding. You have the server. In the server, you're running the application. Now the application is not running, but your server is active. Like here, right? Servers monitoring and application monitoring. Right. So now the other piece for us is monitoring of the servers, monitoring of the applications, the services. Right. So now the third part, right? We are going to cover the monitoring, CI/CD, infrastructure automation, and the monitoring automation. Right. So as a DevOps engineer, these are the three core areas for us. If you work for any application, these are the three core areas for us. Right. So we are going to cover all these things as part of the course. Right. So here these are the tools we are going to cover for our DevOps course, like in our DevOps area, like whatever we discussed, like CI/CD, the CM, right? And the CM means continuous monitoring, continuous integration, continuous deployment, and the continuous monitoring, right? This is the tool stack we are going to cover. And from the infrastructure side, right? These AWS services we are going to cover, right? So everything we are going to see with the technical point of view, not like go and see the theory and try to understand. We are going to see a lot of technical part here. Each tool will go to the deep dive, not like high level. So that with this course you can easily compete with 3 to 5 years real time experience folks. With this course, you can easily compete real time DevOps engineers with the 3 to 5 years minimum. That is the minimum. That is what the guarantee I can provide. Right. So Aparna, will be able to clear the DevOps related certificates. Yes. So here, So yes, Aparna, you can clear, but the main thing, from the DevOps side, the certifications. So you have to go with the tool level certification, not like a DevOps certification. You are not going to have any kind of DevOps certification. Either you can go with the tool level, like here, Suppose if I take this here, you can go for the Kubernetes certification. You can go for the Docker certification. You can go for the Terraform certification, right? Like, or you can go for the AWS services certification. Like you have the certification in the AWS, right? AWS solution architect, intermediate and advanced level, AWS developer certifications. Or if you want to go with the tool set, tool level certification. Yes, so you can go for it with this course. You can go for it. But so there are like suppose if you want to go with the AWS services, so majority of the services are covered here. Maybe 2 to 3 services you have to take care of it when you go for AWS certification. The rest we are going to cover here. So for the QA, so tool levels, like anyway, again. So when you are learning this DevOps, again, don't think about QA, right? Why to think about QA, right? So you will not go like a QA guy, right? You will be go like a DevOps guy, right? So suppose for the knowledge sake or for the future sake, you are learning this course, right? Obviously, two level certifications not like a temporary, right? They are not temporary. Like you learn you got the experience on the Kubernetes, like the certification. It's not like 1 year or 2 year, right? It is always so tomorrow, like maybe after 2 years, you are planning to switch. So there you can show the certification, right? I have already had the certification on the Kubernetes. I can work on the microservices, right? Always the certifications are helpful, right? Always, right? If you are learning not only DevOps, right? Anywhere, any technology, right? You have completed any certification, always they will be helpful for us. So this course is for 3 months. So because right, we are going to cover a lot of stuff here, the tools and services. So 2.5 months is minimum. Then it can extend for 3 months, right? So you can take it minimum 2.5 months. So right, so yeah,
Shankar, I have a
yes,
doubt.
yeah, Kalyan.
Yeah. Actually, I am from mechanical background, Shankar, and I have 10 years of experience in my mechanical background, in the mechanical software itself. Okay,
Okay,
now I am going to switch into this IT field. How
okay.
much it will be helpful for us, for me? It means I have zero knowledge in technical. Frankly saying that for this AWS or whatever, I have a zero
Hmm.
knowledge in about the technical background, and how it will be helpful for me. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. So one thing, right, Kalyan, right? So here you have 10 years of the mechanical experience, right? So you have to work hard because you are trying to switch into the IT, right? So what you will do, right? You will go like a 3 to 5 years IT guy, like you work for like a software, yeah, right? So you cannot go like a fresher. So now, if
yes.
you are yet you are going like a 3 to 5, like not 3 days, go as a 5. So right, you have to gain that much knowledge. So already right, like I mentioned, our course right can take it and you can easily compete with 3 to 5 years guys. So it is helpful for you like when you are ready with that. Like it's not like that you learn it and leave it. So that properly practice and every topic and everything, right? For sure you can switch it to your career. So here you can see here now, one of my student, he is the guy. Like almost 4 years back, he took the training from me. Right. So he is completely a non-IT guy from teaching field. By that time, he's having 9 years of gap, like the teaching. Now he is working as a DevOps engineer, like almost I think it is fourth year for him, fourth or fifth year. Like 4 years back, he took the training. Like not only this guy, like my students are most like there are plenty of are there who are coming from the non-IT and they are working as a DevOps engineers. The only thing is from your side, the dedication is required. Practice lot,
Yeah,
right? Try to understand that the stuff. That's it. You can
yeah,
easily
yeah,
switch
Shankar.
into
Yeah, correct, correct.
yeah.
Yeah, actually, I will put my effort, 100% effort. That was sure. But what I am
Mhm.
trying to getting from you means how about I will get into the technical stuff. That's what I want. The tool, as per my experience, the tool is nothing. We can learn any tool within the short period of time. That will you teach that everything. But what about the technical thing? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's all right. So Kalyan here, the course how I designed is right in your real time, like which area you're going to work, right? How we are going to work. In that way, we are going to train here, right? It's not like that just learning the tool and leaving it like that. You will go the tool, understanding the flow of the tool, like how right. Suppose you got a request. Suppose I got a requirement in my project, like what I will do, right? In that fashion only you are going to work on. So that right, you don't need to hesitate like in the when I go to the project, it will be something else. What I learned here, it's not like that. What you learned here, you are going to use the same on your real time also, like when you work on a project, right?
Okay.
So that's what,
It
yeah,
means
that's yeah.
you yeah. It means you want to show the real time project also, right? Now, how it will be on the project
Exactly.
based.
Exactly. That's what right. Three projects, right? I said like three projects, right? One is the mono, micro, and the third one is the cloud. So now you will see the real-time process setup only. We are going to create the servers. We are going to install like what I mentioned, right? Whatever the demo I have given, right? Everything you will see the practical. So that's what the real-time also. But the code I am not going to show you, right? So like I cannot take my application code and I cannot get that part. We'll take some sample
Mm.
code, like the application code we are going to take a sample code, but the rest of process, the automations, the service creation, integration, everything, you are going to see the real time thing only, right? We are going to work the same real time process only, right? The
Okay.
entire flow, right? Whatever I have, right? shown you like in the previous slides. So the entire flow you are going to develop here in our course. Not to be worried. Right? Anyway, right. So if you want, guys, for the boost up thing, I can take these guys like in one day or sometimes. You can speak with them like how they are right practice and how they speak and any issues from for them to work on the DevOps side. Maybe you can take the suggestion from them also.
Okay.
So,
And Shekhar, yeah, please continue upon that, please.
so with the AWS contents you are covering, we'll be able to do some AWS cloud certifications.
Correct. That's what right. That's what I mentioned. Right. So here, suppose if I go with the AWS solution architect, right? So these are the majority of the services. Like maybe one or two services we are not covering here. Just you can take the help of Google or YouTube, right? You can cover that. Like if you go to the solution certificate, right, there will be a course content will be there. Like what are the services you have to cover, you have to learn to take the certification. So 90% will be covered here. So one or two services, I think they have added recently. Those are not covering here. You can take it of the Google Help or YouTube Help. Then you can go for it. Yeah, like even my old students right completed like these certifications from the cloud side. Even Kubernetes certifications also they have got it with this course.
Okay.
We can go with yeah we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So and also one more thing right. So here certifications right. Maybe that's this is my personal suggestion. Maybe for you guys whatever you are thinking here. Certification, don't be focused for the certification immediately. But try to gain the knowledge and the tools, then try to switch your career. Suppose you are trying to switch your career, then switch it. So later on, right, once you got some knowledge, then go for the certifications. So that right, it will be helpful for you. Not like immediate you want to go for certificate. So now you're not it's not like that I want to go for the training and I want to have certification, then I want to have it in future reference. Then yes, you can go with that. But if you are trying to switch the career, try to focus on the switching the career. Then you can go for the certifications later.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other?
Thank you, Shankar.
Yeah. So any other
And
questions?
what about the timings, Shankar? At what time every day the training will start?
This that the organization will let you know, Akalya.
Okay,
Maybe
okay,
mostly it will be morning 6 or 6:30 in between. We are going to have this batch.
okay,
They
okay.
will they will they will confirm you. Okay, they will inform you like what is the exact time like 6 or 6:30 like that. Maybe but
Yeah.
the time will be morning only. Yeah, 6 o'clock or six
And
thirty.
one more thing, Shankar, actually, yeah, you're attending online, then it is fine. If I want to come to directly for the lab, is it
Yes, yes.
available?
Yes. The lab facility is available. You can come to offline. Yeah. You can do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. What I mean to asking you means if any the presenter will be available there, that time it means only the weekends we have time. That's what we joining on online itself. Only weekend, the Saturday, Sunday we have a time uh, to come there and we have to work
Practice. Okay.
on labs. Yes, yes.
Okay.
The
Okay.
order, what
Yeah.
the practice everything. Why because we are working guys, right? That we don't have time that
Mm,
much time to work on
mm,
from home.
weekdays. Weekdays. Yes.
Yes, weekdays it
Got
is very difficult for us. The any
got it.
presenter means you or someone is other guy, the Sagar, someone. I hear
Mm,
that. Is
mm-hmm.
you guys are available on weekends there? If you have any doubts or anyone
May
else?
Yeah, someone will be there, but I will not be there in the weekends. But yes, for sure, some guidance will be there. Like one person will be there to guide you guys, like for the
Okay,
practical support. Yeah, maybe
okay,
even Sagar also I'm not sure, but yes, one person will be there for you to support it. Anyway, so anytime, right? If suppose you stuck or somewhere, suppose you came to the like you came to office, like I mean, say the organization you practice it. By the time you stuck with some reason, some point, there you can reach out to guys. Like we'll be there, like
okay,
maybe by phone, by email, like or you can right, you can give a call right by that time we can give the support. That's not a big thing. But the person will be
Uh,
available, but even right will be available offline. Like if you are not available in the institute, right, you can reach out to me right also. That is not a problem.
okay, okay. Yeah.
and,
Thank you, Shiv.
so what time will be the sessions? Because even I'm working, but
Yeah,
I'm working from home. So sessions will be
Yeah,
from.
the like I mentioned, like it will be between 6 to 6:30 a.m. of IST, Aparna. It maybe we can start at 6 o'clock or 6:30. Will decide, like, because now like the batches are running late. I need to see
Okay.
what time I can start. Okay, mostly it will be morning 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. like that. But morning
Okay.
batch only.
Okay.
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 Yeah. Yeah. The
So
the
two
folks are
hours.
going to update.
It's 2
Yeah, they will
hours.
update you the timings. Yeah. Sorry.
It is 3 hours or 2 hours.
No, actually, na. So that's what. So 1.5 hour is the course timing. Like I mean, it's the class timing. 6 to 7:30 or 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Okay,
Okay.
something like that.
So
Okay.
do you cover even HashiCorp language as part of this?
Yeah, that's what. Terraform is the HashiCorp one, right?
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Terraform we are going to cover.
Okay.
But HCL, right? The HCL language you're looking, that is not I'm going to cover. HashiCorp, because right,
Okay.
the Terraform is developed on the HCL. So we are going to cover the Terraform that services. Again, right,
Okay.
if you're like not the HCL language, it is not required actually.
Okay.
And also, right, so for every tool, I am going to provide the material as well. So whatever we are going to discuss in our class, right, so for each tool a separate PPT I prepared, so I'm going to share to you guys so that your practice will become easy, right? As an example, so right, suppose if I'm going to talk about Ansible, right, so this is our Ansible doc material. So each section, like the topic and the executions also, right, I will provide here so that, right, you can easily practice it. So if I run this site, what are the output I'm going to get it. So like, right, every tool material, right, I'm going to provide like this so that, right, so you can easily practice it. That's what the main concept here.
And Shankar, at end of the session, did you provide any mock interviews to?
So mock interviews again, right? So our organization will take care, like they will conduct this mock interviews and everything, right? So
Okay.
like not, so if not me, someone will be there to take care of this mock interview. Then I can provide you the all the technical stuff, including the materials and the technical content, and as well as I
Okay.
can provide you the resumes to, like, I will help you guys to prepare the resumes, and I'll provide some sample resumes to prepare, right, for the devs, and I will give you the overview on how to prepare it. And my support always will be there for you guys, like, even after you switch into your career, like into the DevOps. So you can reach out to me, like even not only for this course, after the course also you can reach out to me for any kind of technical doubts. Okay, I'll be there for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Shankar.
Yeah. So I hope we are good. If no questions, right, we can wind up. If any questions, right, let me know, guys.
Uh,
So our initial,
so
yeah.
as I asked about the certifications, do you give any mock, papers that we can practice and?
So yeah, I do. I have like a lot of stuff is there. If you want, right, I can share those doc the materials, right?
Yeah, maybe at the end
Like
of the course we can take it.
yeah. I will. A lot of stuff here. These are all the documents, right? So that you guys can go through it and easily can crack these certifications. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff is there with me. I can share it to you guys. Not an issue.
Shankar, I'm really sorry. This is very early question, but I hear that the certification is a valid of only 3 years. I hear like that. It is right?
Correct. So they are limited to years. You have to renewal it actually.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
That's where, right. So that's where my thing is, maybe people thinking prospect will be different. Like if I have the certification, right, I will get the calls and I'll get good package. Yeah, that is fine actually, right? When the HRs, right, going through our resumes, if they are having the certificate, right, for sure your resume will have the weightage, and also, right, you can demand the package also with the certifications, right? The thing is, right, uh, right now, right, this is my suggestion again, not like that. So my suggestion, right, so now right now you're trying to switch your career. So don't try to see the packages, because right, once you got the knowledge, once you have the command, then you can demand the package. So right now your priority is to switch your career, right? So even though suppose as an example I'm telling you guys, suppose I'm looking for 20 lakhs, they're offering 15 lakhs. Let's go it. Then settle there, like work for 1 year, got the knowledge, then give a try in the next year. Then you can demand for 30 lakhs, not for 20 then, right? So like that, try to switch your careers first, then gain the knowledge, then go for the demanding. By that time, have the certification. When you go for the next step, right? By the time, have the certificate. Then you can demand anything like that, because you are having the real time experience, and you have the certification. Then you can demand anything like that. So that's what my suggestion is. Like, or you can go with the certifications, you can take it and try it. That is again, that's also fine thing. Yeah, fine then.
Yeah.
So I hope we are good. Yeah. So see you
Yeah.
guys
Thanks, Shankar. Definitely.
in our next class.
It's a
Yeah.
nice demo. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.